Hello everyone, this is Stephanie, your CSA coach, and it is week 24 of our CSA shares, which officially means this is the last week of this CSA season. So make sure you register for next year to secure your spot. All of the information for that is on our emails that we all received yesterday if you haven't already done so. And also make sure at pickup this week, if you are picking up for half share weeks, it's a B week, that you thank our farmers for a very successful CSA season, because today or this week is the last week for us. Stay tuned for information over the winter. If you pre-register for next season, you will stay on our Facebook group, and we typically have challenges and questions and things to keep the group a little bit active throughout the off season. So stay tuned for that. Jumping right into this week, we have repeat items from previous weeks, and we do have a couple of new items. We have kale. Kale gets stored in the fridge in a plastic bag. Debbie Meyer green bag is what I usually put it in. Kale can be served raw in a salad. It can be turned into kale chips. There's a really good recipe for ranch kale chips on the blog. You can saute it and serve it as a side. You can puree it and turn it into green cubes for smoothies. You can throw it into soups. So lots of options there. Kale is full of really good nutrients, so it's really good to eat just even as a side. We are probably gonna do a massaged kale salad. So I'll probably serve it raw with lightly dressed. You have either salad mix or arugula. Both are great. We'll start with the salad mix. Both stored in the bag they come in until you're ready to use it in the fridge. Once you're ready to use it, clean it off, wash it off, throw it in your salad spinner, get it nice and dry, and then your salad mix is really good for salads. And like I've said before, the way you dress your salad changes up the flavor of the salad, even though the greens are the same. So think about just changing up the recipe. Maybe if you're used to a vinaigrette, do a more creamy dressing. Or if you have lots of herbs laying around, do a fresh herb vinaigrette. Or you can keep it even simple and just do like an olive oil and lemon juice to dress. Again, great as a side or great as a base for a larger dish. So options there. I got salad mix, but you may also receive arugula. Arugula will come in the same kind of bag, stored in the fridge until you're ready to use it. Wash it, spin it in your salad spinner, and arugula can be served raw or cooked. We like it raw, just dressed as a salad. You can cook it. There's a really good recipe on the blog for like an arugula and radish pasta. Very different flavors in that. Something unique that you could try if you haven't already tried it. It's good. You can also do an arugula pesto. You can just saute it and have it as a side. We like it raw or just lightly wilted. So options there as well. We have parsley again this week. Parsley, we're going to take the entire thing and put it in water and then store it in the fridge. I still have my parsley from last week because we were away for the long weekend, so I need to preserve this. So I am going to dehydrate this parsley and use the other parsley throughout the week. You can either dehydrate this, you can freeze it, so ways to preserve it. And that's what you should be thinking about now if we're not going to use some of these vegetables, or you still have vegetables from last week. How can I preserve it? How can I make it last a little longer throughout the season since we're ending? But store it in the fridge just like this. Parsley is really good in smoothies. It's really good for kidney health. So you can throw a big batch, a big handful of it into your smoothie. You can dehydrate it, you can freeze it. It's really good on top, like as a garnish on top of salads, or on top of like a sweet potato or potatoes or any type of dish. You can throw it into dressing. So we talked about making a herbal vinaigrette. You can take a big batch of, or big handful of parsley and throw it into your vinaigrette and make a parsley vinaigrette as well. So that's stored in the fridge just like that. If you still have your parsley from last week, then I would highly recommend either dehydrating or freezing it so you preserve some. We still have tomatoes, so tomatoes get stored at room temperature, just on the counter. I just rinse them off and throw them on my counter until I'm ready to use it. You can slice them and serve them just as a side or as a snack. I like to sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on them and serve them just like that. Sliced on top of sandwiches or burgers are really good. You could definitely make a pico de gallo, especially if you still have some hot peppers left from previous weeks. But we have onions and we have garlic and we have the tomatoes, so you can make a good fresh pico. If you still have your tomatoes from last week, you can do soups, a good roasted tomato soup. There's a recipe on the blog. You can also do roasted tomato sauce, also a recipe on the blog. But these will last just stored on the countertop. We have sweet onions. We've had these a lot throughout the season. They're stored in a cool, dry place. Really good, just thinly sliced on top of salads. You can marinate them, pickle them. Good on top of tacos. Probably used in this week alongside a couple of the other vegetables for this week's recipe. So stay tuned for that on Thursday. But stored in a cool, dry place. Really good roasted. If you haven't tried the whole roasted onions from the blog from this season, try those. Especially, it's kind of nice out even though it's cooler, but if you're throwing protein on the grill, you could do those whole roasted onions as a side, and it's really good and different. We have garlic. Garlic is stored in a cool, dry place, same as our onions. If you've been listening to me throughout the season, you know I love garlic, so I add garlic to everything, to dressings, to marinades, to soups and stews and sheet pan meals. You really can't go wrong with garlic. So add it to just about everything, stored in a cool, dry place. We have radishes. We have purple daikon radishes and watermelon radishes. Both, when they're cut open, are absolutely beautiful and they add color to dishes. So I like to keep them raw, thinly sliced on top of our salad. So you could just do the salad mix that you got and thinly slice the radishes just as kind of a garnish. Add a few slices to your salad and it just makes a beautiful dish. You can pickle these, you can roast them. I think there's a radish pico de gallo, and I can't remember what radish I used in that, maybe the watermelon, but you can use any radish. So try that for a nice different topping or just a dip. These are stored in the fridge in your crisper drawer. We have sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are stored in a cool, dry place. Once you are ready to use them, scrub them really well, get all the dirt off of them, peel them. You can boil them, you can roast them, you can throw them on the grill. Basically anything you do with a regular potato, you can do to a sweet potato. We also have, pretty sure this will be showcased in this week's recipe, just like last week's recipe. I did a sweet potato oatmeal cookie. The cookie was not a sweet cookie. So it wasn't meant to be sweet and like a dessert cookie. It was meant more to be a breakfast or a snack cookie. So if you want to alter that recipe and make it more desserty, you're definitely going to need more sweetener in it. But with the sweet potato and the maple syrup that I used in that recipe, I felt like it was sweet enough and still nutritious as a snack. So that uses sweet potato puree. You can also make sweet potato puree and freeze it. So you can do that to preserve the sweet potatoes. So these are used, if you've been saving them, you can make a big dish for Thanksgiving since we have that coming up. You can do sweet potato, just mashed whipped sweet potatoes, or you can just do sweet potatoes as a side. Boil the sweet potatoes, mash them, and then serve those as a side, but stored in a cool, dry place. We have coconut squash. Coconut squash is really good. Just like all of our squashes, it's stored in a cool, dry place. It will last. It's not something you have to use right away. Each of our squashes has a little bit of a different flavor profile. So we had coconut, we had honey nut, we had butternut. I think we had butterkin. All of these can be interchanged. So if you find a recipe for one, you can use another one. You can simply chop this up and roast it. You can slice it into slices and roast it that way. You can chop it in half and roast it in half. Obviously, the size of your pieces will determine the length of your roasting. You can boil it, and then you can definitely puree it. Some of the recipes on the blog, I'm pretty sure coconut is what I used for the, there's a dip that is delicious and would work really well since we're celebrating Halloween today. If you want a fun dip, you can use this. There's also a pancake recipe that I used one of the squashes for. That's really good. And then you can just make soups. So roast your flesh of the squashes, puree them, and make a delicious soup. So that's an option also, but that will last. 2 more items. We have cabbage. Cabbage stores really well, so put this in the fridge. You can make coleslaws. You can just chop it up and use it as a side, raw, or you can cook it so it can be sauteed. You can make steaks, so slice it into probably about a 1/2 inch. Width-wise, oil it and throw it on the grill, and that's a cabbage steak, just as a side. You can also roast it. You can make coleslaw. You can make sauerkraut. So lots of options there. But slaws are really good with cabbage, obviously. This will last, so not something you need to use right away. And last but not least, new this week is our Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are best stored exactly like this is. So wrap it in some plastic wrap and put it right in the fridge. If the stalk is too big and it's too bulky and cumbersome, then take each of the Brussels sprouts off. So just break those off at the stalk, throw them in a Ziploc bag and store them in the fridge. Brussels sprouts are best used within the first couple days. So within the next few days, you're going to want to use these, and these will be showcased in this week's recipe. So stay tuned for that, the posting of that on Thursday. But best stored. Brussels sprouts you can eat raw. You can throw them on salad. You can shave them. There is a really good recipe. I don't remember what I called it, but from a few years ago that we use all the time with like a shaved Brussels sprout, shaved onions, I think, and then it's roasted, and it's really, really good. My kids tend to not like Brussels sprouts if they're left whole, but if I shave them, then they eat them up. Makes no sense. They taste exactly the same, but you know how kids are. So I tend to shave them, but this week's recipe will showcase them in a different manner. So stay tuned for that. And thank you all for joining me every week if you have, or watching the unboxings. Hopefully they were helpful. If you're still struggling with anything or find some really good recipes that you really want to post, please make sure you do that on our Facebook group. Tag me if you have any specific questions, and hopefully I will touch base with a lot of you throughout the winter if you've already signed up for next season. Otherwise, I will see you next season for the 2024 season of our CSA shares. So have a great holiday season, have a great winter, and I will see you all again in the spring.